where they cannot find a basis to it, what do they say? They say that in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not condemn the displaying of emotion. Please note this down. In the Quran, they say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't condemn the displaying of emotion. They narrate a number of verses to prove their point. Remember why I'm saying they? Because I'm not giving my opinion. I am saying what generally the arguments are. In Surah 51, verse 29 of the Quran, Sarah, the wife of Prophet Ibrahim, as you know, for years she could not have a child. She told Ibrahim to marry Hajar. Hajar gave Prophet Ibrahim Ismail. Later on in her life, at a very old age, she was told of news that she would have a child. The Quran describes what she did. The Quran says, فَصَكَّتْ وَجْهَهَا وَقَالَتْ عَجُوزٌ عَقِيمٌ. She slapped herself viciously and she said, me, an old lady, a barren lady, I'm going to have a child? Those who advocate the idea of showing emotion to that level say if Allah in the Quran allows the wife of a prophet, the mother of a prophet, to slap herself viciously, fasakkat means a vicious slap on oneself, then why wouldn't Allah allow us to honor the grandson of Rasulullah in this way? That's one verse which they use. A second verse which they use is the blindness of Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam. And the reason they use this verse is because they say this very verse was also used by our fourth Imam as a proof for the displaying of emotion. Because as you know, when Abu Hamza Thamali came to our fourth Imam, and he said to him, why is it that you cry so much? Years after Karbala, he said, Prophet Yaqub cried for Prophet Yusuf until he became blind. And you expect me not to cry when this many number of my family were killed in front of me in Karbala? A prophet of God is meant to be the height of controlling emotion. They are our role models. If a prophet of God can cry so much that he becomes blind, not he has a problem in his eye, he became blind, because the Quran says when the shirt came back to him, his eyesight returned back to him. So when he's become blind in this way, so those who advocate that sort of love for Ahlul Bayt say, hold on, if a prophet of God can become blind out of his love for his son, why can't we display emotion for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein? Then there's another school which come forward and say that the Prophet himself did not condemn anyone who harmed himself. In which way? They bring forward this proof that there was a companion of Rasulullah by the name of Uwais al-Qarani. Uwais al-Qarani, they say, and those of you who've been to Sham would have been to his ziyarah on the way towards Raqqa and Halab and so on. They say that this companion of Rasulullah, he had never met Rasulullah. He never saw Rasulullah. He used to live in Yemen. Rasulullah used to live in Medina. However many times he tried to go and visit Rasulullah, his mother wouldn't let him. His mom wouldn't let him. Until he wrote a letter to Rasulullah saying, Ya Rasulullah, would you please allow me to visit you? My mother doesn't let me. Rasulullah replied to him, visiting me is sunnah. Obedience to your mother is wajib. Until his mother one day allowed him. When he came to Medina, Rasulullah was not there. Where was Rasulullah? In Uhud. He asked, how is Rasulullah doing? The reply was, Rasulullah, his teeth have just been broken at Uhud. Because you know, Rasulullah was positioned alone with Ali ibn Abi Talib and Abu Dujan al-Ansari and al-Harithiyya on the mountain. They attacked his teeth. The narration says he picked up a stone and he broke his teeth with the stone. When Rasulullah came back to Medina, Rasulullah said, I smell the fragrance of paradise. Has Uwais al-Qarani been here? He hadn't even seen him, yet he said, Uwais al-Qarani will have the same intercession as two of the biggest tribes of Arabia. That's how prominent he'll be on the Day of Judgment, that he can give shafa'ah for tribes the size of Rabi'a and Mudhar. Therefore, they will use this to say, Rasulullah didn't condemn this, why are we then condemning azadari? I have gone over it very quickly. But I will open now the floor after Sheikh Muhammad's lecture for questions related to each of these issues and how we would discuss them further. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah Sayyid for your eloquent basis to give us an understanding of where our practices originate from. And I'm sure the references that we have will prove very useful. Just before we continue, I have an announcement to make that if you've parked your car in the Rugby car park, the volunteers are kindly requesting you to move your cars into the center. Our next speaker is Sheikh Mohammed Al-Hilli. Sheikh Mohammed Al-Hilli is a renowned speaker and has had the opportunity to visit centers around the UK as well as around the world. He is a pharmacist by profession, but also finds time to quench his thirst for Islamic knowledge, and he's completed his Hawza studies at the International University for Islamic Sciences in London. And he was also the chairman of the Islamic Unity Society and served for 4 years. We've heard from Sayyid Ammar about the history of azadari. We know what it's like for us today. So now, inshallah, Sheikh Mohammed Al-Hilli will address us on the future of azadari. What does it hold for us? Please can we welcome him with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المطهرين المكرمين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. السلام عليك سيدي ومولاي يا صاحب الزمان. هذا يوم الجمعة وهو يومك المتوقع فيه ظهورك، والفرج للمؤمنين على يديك وقتل الكافرين بسيفك، وأنا يا مولاي فيه ضيفك وجارك، وأنت يا مولاي كريم من أولاد الكرام ومأمور بالضيافة والإجارة، فأضفني وأجرني صلوات الله وسلامه عليك وعلى أهل بيتك الطيبين الطاهرين. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم وهو أحسن القائلين وأصدق الصادقين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، ومن يعظم شعائر الله فإنها من تقوى القلوب. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Respected elders, scholars, brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu Alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. He stood in a barren land and he was over 100 years old. He had waited eagerly for his child. He stood in an area with no vegetation, with no crops, and the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was received. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَإِذْ بَوَّأْنَا لِإِبْرَاهِيمَ مَكَانَ الْبَيْتِ أَنْ لَا تُشْرِكْ بِي شَيْئًا وطهر بيتي للقائمين والراكعين والركع السجود وطهر بيتي للطائفين والقائمين والركع السجود. The command from Allah was to erect the house of God to Ibrahim and Ismail على نبينا وعلى آله وعليهم أفضل الصلاة والسلام. He performed this command in tremendous fashion. Then the next stage was to declare to people a special mission. وَأَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ بِالْحَجِّ يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا وَعَلَى كُلِّ ضَامِرٍ يَأْتِينَ مِنْ كُلِّ فَجٍّ عَمِيقٍ. The declaration that was commanded to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was to announce to people to come to perform the sacred pilgrimage towards the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, either on foot or on lean camel, coming from all kinds of distant places. Ibrahim alayhi salam spoke to Allah. He wondered with himself. Around him there were a group of people, a few in number, villages, a small tribe. How will this declaration reach mankind? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered him, مِنْكَ النِّدَاء وَمِنَّ التَّبْلِيغ. Declaration is from you, propagation is from us. On the 10th of Ashura,